Hello and welcome to a very special leadership series we're running here on People, Politics, and Planet. I'm your host, Joanne Roberts. I'm also the interim leader of the Green Party of Canada. Now, as many of you know, the Green Party is in the midst of a leadership contest. 9 people are seeking the leadership, which was left vacant when Elizabeth May stepped down in November after 14 years as leader of the party. She, of course, has stayed on as a member of Parliament and parliamentary leader. Here on People, Politics, and Planet, we're doing interviews with each of these 9 contestants, and so you have a chance to get to know them better. And right now, I am going to be having a conversation with Judy Green. Judy is the only contestant who's based in Atlantic Canada. She's an aircraft technician and veteran with the Canadian military, but she also holds a master's degree in computer science. Now, for the past 10 years, she's operated a wellness coaching business. This is how I got to know her. She ran in West Nova in 2019. She came in third ahead of the NDP, and she had almost 13% of the vote. So her riding is in good shape for the next election. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you so much for having me on here, Joanne. I'm really looking forward to this. We're both so busy, we rarely get a chance to sit down and just chat.
I know, it's true. It's true. For people who used to see each other a lot in 2019, we don't see each other very often.
Exactly.
Let's start with what I said at the beginning, because most people know I'm based in Atlantic Canada as well. Atlantic Canada is where we, as a Green Party, had a great deal of success in 2019. We elected another MP. We had 20 out of 25 ridings get over 10%. How important is it to you to be a leadership contestant from Atlantic Canada?
I think it is an amazing opportunity to really bring the focus on the Greens in Atlantic Canada. There is an appetite for green policies here. We have the solutions. We know intimately what the challenges are here in Atlantic Canada. And not unsurprisingly, they are challenges that are felt all across Canada. You know, we are kind of a microcosm. West Nova is considered one of those ridings that is a small version model of Canada, because we have agriculture, we have fisheries, we have First Nations, we have Acadian Francophone, we have all of the different representation of our economic models and our rural and a mix of urban and rural. So it's always a kind of a riding that is watched to see how things go. And so it's very, very interesting, the results that we had in West Nova, and with a very new team. We had nobody who had a campaign experience on our team, but we ran it like I would a business in terms of marketing. So we really did a real marketing focus for our campaign, and getting out and talking to people, asking them, like something very novel, ask them what we can do for them, instead of standing on the doorstep like traditional politicians and telling them what we're going to do or what they need. Yeah. So I much prefer that, connection, and actually listening to the people who, when I'm MP, I will be representing them, I'll be working for them. I need to know what they need from us. And so that is a very Atlantic Canadian, very congenial way of building support within our community. It's honest, it's authentic. And that's what we need more of in politics. We have this large population of people who are completely disenfranchised. They've lost trust in politicians and in politics in general. I was one of them for many, many years. And it took the climate crisis to say, okay, fine, it's not getting done. I'm stepping in and doing what I can do to make this happen. So, that's that can-do attitude we have here in Atlantic Canada.
And yet one of the challenges of being based in Atlantic Canada is we don't have the population you would have if you were in Toronto or Vancouver or someplace like that. And now all contestants are dealing with this, but shortly after you announced you were going to run, we were hit with a pandemic. So yes. How does it put you at a disadvantage then to be based in Atlantic Canada?
Well, it certainly does, because as you said, we have the lower population density, which means we have to do more to get the same results. And when we are limited in not being able to travel and meet people in the different areas, that makes it even more challenging. But in an odd twist, I think that we're actually being more green, being more carbon sensitive by having more outreach on social media and on Zoom calls, and actually getting in front of more people than we would have had we gone into an area, had a set time and date in a certain place where You know, in Atlantic Canada, like even in my riding, it's like what, 2.5, 3 hour drive from one end to the other. Not a lot of people are going to drive that distance to come and see you. And this is why even in our riding, we have to do multiple events. So trying to do that all across Canada with 338 ridings is a daunting task for a leadership contestant. But with Zoom, we can do that. And it helps to alleviate some of my cognitive dissonance that I had at the beginning of this campaign, where it was like, oh my gosh, how can I get across Canada and not burn carbon, you know, not be contributing to the problem that we're really trying to solve. And so there are some aspects of this, the way we're doing things now, I'd like to see continue going forward. It allows us to connect EDAs to EDAs a whole lot easier than we've ever had before. And I think we're seeing that, building those relationships that are only going to help inform our campaigns going forward and make us stronger. I'm already seeing that there is some collaboration on the prairies where they have set up a Facebook group for Greens across Canada to come together. And if there's a by-election somewhere, they're going to have a whole lot of people doing phone canvassing for them. And these are the grassroots ideas that come from the membership that we have to capture and nurture and really grow, because these are the ones that are going to make a difference for the Greens in the next election.
So 9 people in this race. There will, I presume, only be one leader chosen. You know, there's a lot of discussion going on about co-leadership, but at the current time under our bylaws, there will be a leader chosen. What do you see your role if you don't win this?
Well, I will not be going anywhere. We have the next, I mean, we're going to have another federal election very shortly here in Nova Scotia. We could have a provincial election at any point in time. I'm the regional representative for Fundy Shore in this area, so I'm quite active with our provincial Greens. I'm working behind the scenes on 2 different potential proposals for policies that I'm hoping we get to put forth this year with the BGM. Or in some format. I know it's kind of up in the air right now, but you know, our membership drives that, so it's really critical that we have an opportunity to work on policy this year in some form. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes with Greens working with Greens that people don't always recognize. And this is something that I'm trying to get out and have people in all of the different EDAs understand, is that there are other things that they can get involved in between elections. You know, when I came into the party and came into the provincial Greens, the same thing was happening, is that we would ramp up, do an election, and then everybody would go away. Or in our case, because of the way the elections are staggered, provincial and federal, 2 years later, we'd ramp up provincially, and then it would go away. And we were losing that momentum. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We can't afford to lose that momentum. You know, the earth can't afford us to lose that momentum. We need to take that time in between to be really reaching out to underrepresented communities in an authentic way, not just, oh, we're having an election, we want your vote, we want a photo op, but to actually build those relationships, understand what the lived experiences are for people in those communities, and find out what they need from us so that we make a safe place in this party for them and in our EDAs. For them to come and share their wisdom and their knowledge with us, because, you know, as you know, diversity is one of our core pillars, and it's something we really need to work on. And as a person of settler descent, as I am, it's my responsibility to learn and to relearn history, or unlearn the whitewashed history and relearn the real history in Canada. Listen to the people who have that lived experience, learn from that, and together we can work forward to build Canada in a way that is equitable for everybody. I think that's the goal everybody wants. We just are missing that step in between about how to make it happen. So we need to talk and work together. But that is a lot of wonderful things to do in between elections. I have a whole line of, I could talk for half an hour on that subject. So
those are things that no matter who's the new leader, you hope get put into place.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. As well as a couple of the ideas that I have that are my pet projects that I really want to get in place.
Let's find out a little bit about what motivates you then. Growing up as little Judy Green, what did you want to be when you grew up? I mean, because you've had a really varied work career, which is, I think, speaks to a lot of capability, but I'm wondering, did you ever think you'd see yourself in this role?
No, absolutely not. And it's so funny. I have a friend, Wendy, who is working on my campaign now. She's from PEI. We reconnected, but we were roommates in basic trades training in Borden, Ontario as airframe technicians. I don't even say how many years ago, but I will say the year, 1981.
Yeah, yeah.
And we often chuckle. It's like, did you ever think politics? Like, seriously, no. As I said, I was one of those people who was very disenfranchised with politics and the games that are played. And quite honestly, I had been asked to run when I was a school trustee in Eastern Passage. I was asked to run, I think it was by the Liberals. And at that point in time, I was like, I don't think so. I had seen Question Period, and my 6-year-old with ADHD was better behaved. It just totally turned me off politics
Yeah.
completely, because I always lived my life from a place of authenticity and always trying to make things better. You know, my mom taught me, you know, even when we were renting everywhere, you always leave the place better than when you found it. And that's kind of a credo for me, right? And so that's throughout my life. But I've also learned to roll with the punches. You know, I've had a fairly tumultuous childhood, a lot of love in the home, but because of finances and poverty, my family was torn apart, and there's always repercussions with that. When I joined the military, I was in it for the career. So funny, because my husband was in it for 5 years. And when our son was about to be born, we were ready to be transferred, and we had a choice, because one of us had to get out or we were going to be posted to separate provinces. That's how archaic it was for women in the military in the early 80s. We were not even under, the Bill of Rights. Canadian military members signed that away when we signed on the dotted line. So, I mean, there's a lot about our history in the military that people don't understand as well. So I followed my husband, and then I started in computer science, and you go where the jobs are, and I ended up in Ottawa. And then my father died, and I wanted to be closer to family, so we were out in Alberta where my mom was living, and my two sisters. So 6 years ago, we returned to Nova Scotia, which is where my husband is. So really, it's been going with the flow, making sure a family comes first, and making sure there's food on the table. But I've always tried to choose jobs that made a difference in the world. And about 10, 15 years ago, that was my goal. It wasn't to make money for somebody else. It was to make a difference in the world. And that's why I switched completely over to wellness coaching, life coaching, do business coaching, really helping people have the tools they need to move forward. And the Green Party allows me to have that opportunity and to do politics differently, which I really, really appreciate. And I'm going to hold us to it. We have to walk that talk, because there's a lot of people like me who will come to the party and have come to the party because of that. And that's why it's so critical that we continue to hold to our ethics, hold to our principles, and make sure that those are our guideposts as we go forward.
Now, this is a question I'm asking every contestant. How does your family feel about you running? And family is any way you describe it, and what the definition is for you. But this is not something that doesn't have an impact on those around you. So how does your family feel about this?
Well, I mean, that was one of the reasons I wouldn't run early on when my son was 8 or 6 at the time, I think. Now he's 37. Yes, I ratted on you, Jason. You're 37 now. He's got 3 children of his own. He's doing fine. My husband is now self-sufficient. It took almost 38 years of marriage, or actually 38 years, working on 39, but he's completely self-sufficient and is supporting me in every way. I've followed him. I've single parented while he's been away on long missions with the military for months at a time. Prior to computers, there was no communication, there was no phone, there was no way of contacting. That's not the case anymore. We could talk every day if we wanted to and had time. So it's a good time in my life to be able to do that. We are prepared for living apart for the vast part of the next while. Should I get in? And that's okay with both of us, because quite honestly, even just being an MP, but being an MP in Ottawa, I mean, your time is split between Ottawa and in your riding, right? So you're working all the time. So many Canadians think that MPs only work when they're in Parliament. That's so not true. The bulk of the work is done in their constituency offices, in their ridings. So it is like a full-time plus job. I think anyone getting into politics needs to understand that, and just make sure that you have the supports in place and the connections. And my son is so funny. During the election last year, he walked downstairs, and on the TV, he says there's this big picture of his mother, and he's like, "Whoa, that's my mom!"
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So yeah, he thinks this is pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice. So now, if you were to be chosen as leader, how do you feel about seeking a seat in the House of Commons? If we had a by-election that Greens felt we could win for our leader, but it was somewhere else in the country, what would be your position on going to wherever that seat might be?
I have no problem with that. I think it's going to be imperative that the leader get into Parliament as soon as possible. I love West Nova and I love the people here, and I'd love to be able to represent them here. But I would rely on the knowledge and experience of the larger group of Greens in the party to determine where the best options would be for us to have the leader elected. And as I said, you're traveling back and forth anyway, so it just ends up being a third stop. When you're traveling, have to get myself an electric car. But it's just the reality of having to work around and have your focus be on Parliament, on the party, and that be your priority. And my family understands that. They've been my priority for 38 years. It's my turn. I figure I've got 2, maybe 3 good elections left in me. I'm not telling how old I am, but and so that's my commitment going forward. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that is important to the party is both official languages in this country. And we have seen that being able to function in both French and English is becoming, I would say, almost essential at the national stage. Where are you at with your French?
I'm working on it. I'm working hard on it. I'm also working with, I have André Muse, who is Acadian, but he's a translator, professional translator. He worked with me during the last campaign, is working with me now as well, which is wonderful to have somebody who has an understanding of the roots of the words and the correct pronunciations. And to understand, one of the things I'm finding fascinating about learning the language is it's you learn more about the people because of the way the language is constructed. Language, and I know this from my friends who are language keepers in El Sitka for the Mi'kmaq people, where the words tell a story, the language tells a story and tells the history. And so you learn so much about the people if you really dive into learning the language. So it is a commitment, not something that comes really fast or I'm 100% comfortable with, but I am at the point where I can work with my translator to have the words in front of me and be able to read them back and understand what I'm reading, but I can't pull them out of the air just yet in terms of having a conversation. But that will come.
So at what point, because at the end of August, all the contestants will make a decision about whether they move on to what we're calling the final stage. At what point might you say, okay, this doesn't look like I am going to be the next leader, but I want to have an influence on the next leader? What goes into making that decision for you?
A lot of it is, for me, it's the fundraising. And that's really critical. We only have 6 weeks left to hit that $20,000. Coming from Atlantic Canada, as you pointed out earlier, that's a real challenge. So we need people not to sit on the fence. All of the candidates need people to step forward and say, okay, we've got 22,000 members. If they all contributed $10 or $20 to the candidates, we'd be good. We would be in good shape going forward. The party would be in good shape. Those fees are going into the party to pay for the expenses for this campaign and to help us moving forward. So it's really, really critical that people step forward. We had hoped initially with this leadership campaign that we would have the opportunity really to bring in more people into the Green Party. But unfortunately, because of the constraints of COVID-19, we don't have that access to that larger audience in the way we would have being able to do public venues and public meetings. So it's kind of falling on the shoulders of the membership to a large degree, A lot of people are still falling through the cracks with the COVID because we don't have guaranteed livable income. They went with CERB instead, and all this patchwork,
Right.
trying to leaky safety net. That's not working. But hey, that's really elevating the conversation of how important it is to have a guaranteed livable income, a form of basic income. So really, that's going to be the critical thing for me going forward, because I am gaining the support. I'm gaining. I've got people joining almost every day on my campaign, which is wonderful. People are hearing what I have to say, and it resonates with them, which is really critical. And as long as that's happening, I will keep going. The only barrier that I see is the finances, and for that, I need help. I need the members to step up, and people who are green leaning out there, $10 makes a big difference if a lot of us chip in.
Yeah, I think new membership is an important goal of this campaign, and it will make a difference for the party. Finally, then, you joined the party because of climate, and you went forward on that. As we go into the next election, if you're leader, how will you ensure that the Green voice is louder, that we elect more MPs, that we have the success we saw in Atlantic Canada replicated across the country?
We need to train people in our EDAs. We need to have a much better understanding of volunteer management. That's one of the things that I'm seeing is really not there in our very patchy across the different EDAs. Some people have it in spades, and others are just doing their best, but not having any experts in the area that they can talk to. This is one of the reasons that we need to make those connections between EDAs. We need to get some more training videos on volunteer management, what to expect from volunteers. I've been volunteering, like I was 6 years old the first time I took tickets at a Teen Town dance, but 14 the first time I had a position as a volunteer. And I don't think there's been any point in my life I haven't been volunteering at least one or two things at any point in time. And it's really, really critical that we provide those training tools and those supports in our EDAs, because if we don't know how to manage our volunteers that are coming in, get them engaged right away, give them something that they can succeed at, we lose them. And I hear that over and over again, especially with the youth. I hear so many times, well, I brought this forward, everybody was really excited, but nothing happened. Well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to hang around. So we need to be capturing that at the EDA level. We need to have the tools there to do that. And we need to be, just supporting and training and learning how to just be green. Being out in public, being green and having fun is one of the things that's really going to attract people to the party, showing that we really are different. We listen, we're not there to preach at you, and we really are looking at elevating everybody. My new favorite economic model is the donut model of economics, where you have that floor of basic human needs have been met, everybody is above that, and then you have that boundary for growth, so that we don't exceed the carrying capacity of our earth. I love that model, and the green policies fit really perfectly into that. So, communicating things like that go way beyond climate, and yet they were affecting climate at the same time. So that's another thing we need to be teaching in our EDAs, is how to identify who you're talking to and what are their needs, because people make decisions based on emotion and how it affects them. They don't make decisions based on fact. And we're all awesome with fact in the Green Party. We're all policy wonks. We have our numbers, we have our figures, and we have, all of our accreditations of, or who have where that knowledge came from. So we have to learn some of those softer skills, which is what I've been doing with coaching, is understanding you have to meet people where they're at, speak in their language, showing them how these policies will directly affect them in a positive way. We can get that on the go. We will start growing the vote across Canada, and that's going to get Green seats in Parliament.
It's been great talking to you, Judy. Thank you so much for this.
Well, thank you so much, Joanne, for the opportunity. I love these questions. These are great.
All the best.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.